Hey everybody, welcome back to Parsnips and Parsimony. Today's video is going to be me talking all about the garden from 2019, how it did, what we got out of it, and any changes that I want to make in the 2020 garden. So Art this afternoon went ahead and calculated out everything for me so I could hopefully make this quick and concise for you guys. So back in 2017, this was the first year that we actually kept track of everything that came out of the garden. We had a really fabulous year, and then Art gave me the final tally. This year was not quite so impressive. You're going to hear that in the numbers. That's it, folks. We're about a page and a half shorter than we did other years. And that's how seasons go. For those of you who are new to our channel, we live in upstate New York, so it's right on the edge of a zone 5, zone 4, zone 5 for the vegetable garden year. And we've been gardening, we've been in this house for 14 years. I think it's 14 or 15 years, and almost every year we have gardened here. It's been a process of amending the soil, adding compost, manure, trying to get the garden to really go and get really strong. However, having multiple kids back to back over the past 8 years has really taken a toll because I can't keep up with the garden as much as I would like to. And you will see that reflected in these numbers because I had a baby January 29th of 2019, which made him about 3 months old when I started my garden. That really made it a lot more challenging. So without further ado, I want to read you guys a list. And I'll put all this information on a link. You'll find the link down in the description below where you guys can actually look at this. Start with horseradish. In the past years, we had one little clump of horseradish in the corner of our garden. We love horseradish as a family. In fact, Art eats it every time he gets sick because he thinks it has some great properties for keeping him healthy and keeping all that nasty mucus stuff out of his head. So he loves horseradish and uses it all winter long to keep the sniffles away. We ended up with getting 4 pounds of horseradish. We've expanded our horseradish from one little pile to almost the entire back portion of our garden just because we need horseradish. So we got 4 pounds of horseradish this year. I only used half of my crop because the other half I will dig the spring of 2020. And I found that a 1 year of growing horseradish is not long enough, at least not in my area, to be able to get long enough and enough horseradish out of the garden. So I pick half of my crop, replant it, and then the following year I picked the other half, and that seems to be enough to keep us going. My goal is always to get 2 full quarts of prepared horseradish to get us through an entire year. So the next one is greens. Now greens could have been lettuce, it could have been spinach, it could have been beet tops, anything that we would use in a salad. I did not break it down because when I would go out to the garden, I just take my big metal harvest bowl, I just cut the greens right off, bring them home, bring them in and weigh them. And that also includes kale in that too. That was 5 pounds, 2.5 ounces. That's a big one for us. We go through a lot of greens all summer long. We love our salads, so I'm not surprised that that was a bigger than normal number, at least for us. Peas, we ended up getting 1 pound, 1 3/4 ounces. Not really a great crop. We never get a really good crop with peas. It seems the little rodents like to come in, nip down those green shoots first thing in the spring, so we never get that many peas. That was actually a pretty good year for us. Garlic scapes. If you have never taken garlic scapes and used them for cooking, you should. It's a great way to flavor your cooking in a more mild way with that garlic flavor, and it's making sure that you're not wasting anything out of the garden. We got 9 1/4 ounces of garlic scapes. Our blueberries did so-so. We have where our home is located, we have 2 large maple trees, one in the front and one in the back. We have half of our blueberries in full sun, and then the other half of the blueberries are not so much in the full sun, and they don't produce as well as they should. We've been in a process again of getting the soil nice and acidic and really good for blueberries, and they're doing better. But it's a slow process. So we only got 9 3/4 ounces. Not that fabulous, but we still got blueberries. Green beans. Not, again, if you watch some of our videos from our 2019 garden, you know that we really struggled with having a woodchuck that kept getting into the garden, and then it was the rabbits, so we did not get a lot of green beans. We got 9 pounds, 7¼ ounces. Zucchini did very well this year once we got it going, because again, we had a rodent problem. We had 22 pounds and 2½ ounces of zucchini. And with the zucchini, I take that and freeze a lot of that. We eat a lot of it fresh, but when it gets to that oversized, which always happens every year, I go ahead and take that zucchini, grate it up, and freeze it, and then use that in soups and bread throughout the winter season. Radishes, we got a whopping 1/4 ounce. Yeah, wasn't a good year. Peaches, again, we were really hoping for a great crop this year, but we had some type of, and this has happened in the past, like a mold that rots the peaches before they actually ripen. So we did not get, we had a lot of peaches, but a lot of them were moldy and we couldn't eat them. So we only weighed what we actually ate, and that was 10 pounds, 3¼ ounces. Not our best year. Next is tomatoes. I planted something around 25 or 26 tomato plants. We tried something new this year. I took plastic collars and put them around each of the tomato plants, hoping to prevent the cutworm from eating down my plants. Well, what I didn't know is that plastic collar, even though it only went down into the soil about that much, it actually stopped the roots from growing. So what happened to my plants was, until I realized this, which was already way into July, is those plants did not go down into the soil. They were stunted and they were stuck. So my plants were like these tiny little plants. If you watched our video from August 26th, you'll actually see where I showed the tomatoes, how they had like this initial burst because they started growing fine, and then shortly after that they stopped growing and I got very few tomatoes. We did end up with 52 pounds of tomatoes and 1 ounce. I did end up canning some tomato sauce. If you haven't checked out that recipe, that's an easy oven fresh roasted tomato sauce, really easy and fast to do. I'll put the link for that in the description below or in the cards. If I could put it in the card, it should be up here or up here, and you guys can check that recipe out because I did get some of those made. We had a volunteer blackberry bush, and we got all of 1/4 ounce of blackberries, just enough to taste them for this year. I had several planters of fresh herbs. I did not weigh them every time that I used them just because they were so minuscule amount, but throughout the summer I just went out to my deck and harvested parsley, oregano, basil, and rosemary. What I did weigh when I weighed the larger amounts is 1½ ounces, but I know that we got a lot more than that. It was just, I used it so many times throughout the day that I just never took one big cutting and weighed it all. Yellow squash, we got 7 pounds, 11¼ ounces. Green onions, we call them Egyptian onions around here, climbing onions. I'm trying to think, we usually call them just Egyptian onions. Anyways, we got 5½ ounces. Again, I picked more throughout the season. I'm not sure that they all got weighed. Patty pan squashes, we got 1 pound, 8¾ ounces. Beets were a good year. We got 5 pounds, 6½ ounces. Banana peppers, we got 1 pound, 6¼ ounces. Green peppers, 5 pounds, 1½ ounces. And broccoli, 6¾ ounces. Guys, this is a really bad year for us. This is not like we've had in the past. Very disappointing. Okay, I've got 6 more things that we grew this year, and that was spaghetti squash. A good year for that, 35 pounds, 15 ounces. We love spaghetti squash, and because it stores so well, that is one of our staples throughout the winter months. We got some Swiss chard, 4¼ ounces. Jalapeno peppers, not good, 10 ounces. And because the tomatoes did so poorly, we didn't even have a chance to make any salsa this year. Eggplant, we got 11 pounds, 3 ounces. Makes sense. I actually had a ton of eggplants that grew this year, so that was a good thing. Cucumbers, ½ ounce. That's exciting. And lastly, we got 30 pounds, 11 ounces worth of pumpkins. So that was a really good year. And we've been having the past month a lot of pumpkin soup and a lot of pumpkin bread. And we do a lot with pumpkins. So for the entire garden, we got 210 pounds and 1.5 ounces of produce, which is really not a good year. If I look back into my journal here to 2017, we had, okay, you ready for this, guys? Grand total of 439 pounds and 2 ounces. So we only got half of what we got in 2017. I fully say that it has everything to do with the fact that I did not have the time to keep the garden under control, to pay attention to it, to weed it. If you go back and watch that one video from August 26th, you'll see that I had 8-foot weeds in my garden. That's embarrassing. That's not usually how my gardens look, but that was my reality this year. So looking forward to 2020, what are my plans? Well, first of all, you guys know that in 2019, I was on a mission, actually 2018 and 19, I was on a mission to use up all of my old seeds. This year, I will be purchasing new seeds from some source. I'm not sure if it'll be M.I. Gardener or if it will be Burpee, or I'm not sure. The seed catalogs haven't shown up. They will start showing up, well, by the time this gets published, it'll be that first week in January. So they should be in my mailbox by then. And I'll start figuring out what we want to grow, how we want to grow. One other issue, if you want to call it an issue, to our garden, and I'm going to show you guys this one. Do you guys see these pine trees here? Half of my garden is down there. I have a garden plot here and another garden plot here. These trees have gotten so tall that it blocks much of the sunlight from those gardens now. Art and I have been trying to decide how we should handle those trees, if we should just hire someone to cut off the tops on them. That was done many, many years ago by our next door neighbor, which really helped keep that sun in the garden. We're just not sure what to do with that. We did a lot more container gardening on my back deck, which had more sunlight, which worked to some extent, but it definitely wasn't like the best thing in the world. So in 2020, one thing I'm going to have to contend with is how are we going to handle those trees and the sunlight, because you guys know tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, they thrive on lots of sun, and if they're not getting enough sun, they're just not going to grow or ripen. So that's one challenge that I have. The exciting thing is for this year, at the end of the fall, we found someone who's a farmer, a dairy farmer, and he has given us manure. Yay! So just before the snow came, we went and he gave us a trailer load of manure, and that is rotting away as we speak inside my garden. I'm excited because it's been many years since we've had real live cow manure. I think that's going to hold a lot of potential for the garden, having things grow bigger and stronger and healthier. We just have to get to the bottom of the sunlight. The things that I would probably grow differently is I don't think I'm going to grow any broccoli or cauliflower this year. Both of those crops did very poorly in the past 2 years. I don't know. I may or may not grow peas again. It just depends on how the mood hits in the spring, because peas are something that grows fast and it's really good for the compost pile. And really, those greens help activate everything. So that's one thing. Those are the three things that I may not possibly grow this upcoming season. As for everything else, everything will probably stay the same. I'll probably try some different varieties and things like that. I'll be doing a seed haul when I get that order in, and I'll put it right here on this channel. So if you want to check that out, make sure you subscribe and you get the notifications so you see that when that comes in. That probably won't be until February. I do grow most of my plants inside. I start them inside under lights. That'll be a whole nother video on how I set up my lights in my little mini greenhouse and grow the seedlings and how I transfer them out to my outdoor hoop house. So as you guys saw and heard, it was not the best of years, but isn't that how life goes? Some years are better than others. So Thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to keep watching for the 2020 garden. I am eagerly looking forward to a fresh start and a hopefully much better and productive year. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you for our next video. Bye.